With these can-do videos, you'll see real-life situations where you have to introduce yourself, talk about your family, or give your contact information. So, by the end, you can do them yourself in Spanish. This video is a small portion of our can-do course. To get the full course, including translations, grammar tools, and assessment tests, click the link in the description. Welcome to Can Do Spanish by SpanishPod101.com.
Hola a todos, soy Víctor Trejo. Hi everyone, I'm Víctor Trejo. In this lesson, you'll learn how to greet someone at different times of the day in Spanish.
This is Sonia Hernandez, the Lee family's Spanish teacher. Her schedule for the day is Mark Lee at 9 a.m., Karen Lee at 12 p.m., Ben Lee at 7 p.m. Listen to the greeting exchange between the three pairs. Pay attention to the time of day.
Buenos días, profesora Hernández.
Buenos días, ingeniero Lee.
Buenas tardes.
Buenas tardes, señora Lee.
Buenas noches, profesora.
Buenas noches, Ben.
Once more with the English translation.
Buenos días, profesora Hernández.
Good morning, Miss Hernandez.
Buenos días, ingeniero Lee.
Good morning, Mr. Lee.
Buenas tardes.
Good afternoon.
Buenas tardes, señora Lee.
Good afternoon, Miss Lee.
Buenas noches, profesora.
Good evening, teacher.
Buenas noches, Ben.
Good evening, Ben. Wondering how you can master these conversations even faster? Here's how. 1. Read along. You get the lesson conversation and translations inside our dialogue tool so that you see each word as you hear it and understand it all. 2. Practice speaking. By shadowing what you hear, you can also record and compare yourself with native speakers with our voice recording tools. And 3. Take our assessment tests and see how much you remember. These tools are part of our Can Do course. Just click the link in the description to get them.
Let's take a closer look at each of these expressions.
In the first conversation, do you remember how Mark says, "Good morning, Miss Hernandez"?
Buenos días, profesora Hernández.
First is,
Buenos días.
"Good morning."
Buenos días.
Let's start with
Días.
days.
Días. Días.
In Spanish, all nouns have grammatical gender and are either singular or plural.
Días.
Is masculine and plural, a fact that will determine the form of other words in the sentence. Next is
Buenos.
good.
Buenos. Buenos. Buenos.
Is masculine and plural to agree with.
Días.
Together,
Buenos días.
literally means good days, but it translates as good morning in this context.
Buenos días.
This is the standard greeting during the morning.
Buenos días.
Next is
Profesora.
meaning teacher. since it can also be used as a form of direct address. Here, Miss is used in the English translation instead.
Profesora. Profesora. Profesora.
Is feminine singular. Finally, the teacher's family name,
Hernández. Hernández. Hernández.
together,
Profesora Hernández.
Miss Hernandez.
Profesora Hernández.
Altogether,
Buenos días, profesora Hernández.
good morning, Miss Hernandez.
Buenos días, profesora Hernández.
When including a person's name in a greeting, it's more common to say the person's name after the greeting. Note, using a person's family name in a greeting may come across as more formal. Do you remember the teacher's response? Good morning, Mr. Lee.
Buenos días, ingeniero Lee.
First is,
Buenos días.
good morning.
Buenos días.
Next is,
Ingeniero.
which literally means engineer, but translates as Mr. in this context.
Ingeniero. Ingeniero.
The teacher addresses Mark with his job title, as a sign of respect. In English, this would be similar to calling someone Mr.
Ingeniero.
Is masculine and singular. Finally, Mark's family name in Spanish.
Lee. Lee. Lee.
Altogether, it's
Buenos días, ingeniero Lee.
literally, good days, Engineer Lee, but translates as, good morning, Mr. Lee.
Buenos días, ingeniero Lee.
Note, this exchange is formal. In the second conversation, which takes place at noon, do you remember how Karen says, good afternoon?
Buenas tardes.
Note that Karen's greeting is slightly less formal, as she doesn't say the teacher's name.
Buenas tardes.
Good afternoon.
Buenas tardes.
Let's start with
Tardes.
afternoons.
Tardes. Tardes. Tardes.
Is feminine and plural, a fact that will determine the form of other words in the sentence. Next is
Buenas.
good,
Buenas. Buenas. Buenas.
is feminine and plural to agree with,
Tardes.
together,
Buenas tardes.
literally means good afternoons, but it translates as good afternoon. This is the standard greeting from midday on.
Buenas tardes.
Do you remember how the teacher replies? Good afternoon, Miss Lee.
Buenas tardes, señora Lee.
First is
Buenas tardes.
good afternoon.
Buenas tardes.
Next is
Señora.
meaning miss.
Señora. Señora.
This is an honorific for women. It's similar to the term miss in English. Finally, Karen's family name in Spanish.
Lee. Lee. Lee.
Altogether, it's
Buenas tardes, señora Lee.
good afternoon, Miss Lee.
Buenas tardes, señora Lee.
In the third conversation, which takes place in the evening at 7 p.m., do you remember how Ben says, "Good evening, teacher"?
Buenas noches, profesora.
First is,
Buenas noches.
"Good evening."
Buenas noches.
Let's start with
Noches.
nights.
Noches. Noches. Noches.
Is feminine and plural, a fact that will determine the form of other words in the sentence. Next is
Buenas.
good.
Buenas. Buenas. Buenas.
Is feminine and plural to agree with
Noches.
together.
Buenas noches.
Literally means good nights, but translates as good evening. This is the standard greeting during the evening.
Buenas noches.
After this is
Profesora.
teacher.
Profesora.
This is the feminine singular form of the word.
Profesor.
Adding her title increases the formality of the greeting. Altogether, it's
Buenas noches, profesora.
good evening, teacher.
Buenas noches, profesora.
Do you remember how the teacher replies, "Good evening, Ben"?
Buenas noches, Ben.
First is
Buenas noches.
good evening.
Buenas noches.
After this is Ben's name in Spanish.
Ven. Ven. Ven.
Since he is a young adult, she refers to him by his first name. Altogether, it's
Buenas noches, Ben.
good evening, Ben.
Buenas noches, Ben.
The greeting
Buenos días.
is used during the morning, from early in the day until around 11:45 a.m. or so.
Buenas tardes.
Is used from around 12 p.m. until it gets dark, usually until 6:45 p.m. or so.
Buenas noches.
Is used after the sunset, usually from 7 p.m. In this lesson, Karen is addressed as
Señora Lee. Señora.
is an honorific used for married women. To address an unmarried woman, there's another honorific,
Señorita.
meaning miss.
Señorita.
The word,
Señor.
meaning Mr., is used to address adult men in general, similar to the way Mr. is used in English. In work environments or when the situation is formal, it's common in Mexico to use job titles if they're known. In this lesson, for example, Mark called his teacher,
Profesora Hernández.
and the teacher called him.
Ingeniero Lee.
Let's look at the greetings once more. Listen and repeat or speak along.
Buenos días. Buenos días. Buenas tardes. Buenas tardes. Buenas noches. Buenas noches. Buenas tardes, señora Lee. Buenas tardes, señora Lee. Buenas noches, profesora. Buenas noches, profesora. Hola. Buenos días. Hola. Buenos días. Did you notice how I added the word hola before buenos días?
Wondering how you can master these conversations even faster? Here's how. 1. Read along. You get the lesson conversation and translations inside our dialogue tool so that you see each word as you hear it and understand it all. 2. Practice speaking. By shadowing what you hear, you can also record and compare yourself with native speakers with our voice recording tools. And 3. Take our assessment tests and see how much you remember. These tools are part of our Can-Do course. Just click the link in the description to get them. The greeting
Hola,
means hello.
hola, hola.
This is the most basic way to say hello. It's the most common greeting. Pronunciation note. The H is silent.
Hola,
You can use this greeting alone,
hola.
or you can combine this greeting with other greetings you have learned. For example,
Hola, buenos días.
hi, good morning.
Hola, buenos días. Hola, buenas tardes.
Hi, good afternoon.
Hola, buenas tardes.
Let's review. Respond to the prompts by speaking aloud. Then repeat after me, focusing on pronunciation. Ready? Do you remember how to say good morning? Buenos días. Buenos días. And how to say good afternoon? Buenas tardes. Buenas tardes. And how to say good evening? Buenas noches. Buenas noches. Do you remember the word for female teacher? Profesora. Profesora.
Let's practice. Imagine you're Ben Lee, and you're attending your morning class. Respond to your female teacher by saying, "Good morning, teacher." Ready?
Buenos días, Ben.
Buenos días, profesora.
Listen again and repeat.
Buenos días, profesora. Buenos días, profesora.
Let's try another. Imagine you are Mark Lee, and you're attending your afternoon class. Respond by saying, "Good afternoon." Ready?
Buenas tardes.
Buenas tardes.
Listen again and repeat.
Buenas tardes. Buenas tardes.
Let's try one more. Now, imagine you are Karen Lee, and you see your neighbor in the evening. Respond by saying, "Good evening." Ready?
Buenas noches.
Buenas noches.
Listen again and repeat.
Buenas noches. Buenas noches.
This is the end of this lesson.
Now, here's what you can do to cement this conversation in your head. Review the conversation with our dialogue tool and lesson transcripts. Study the key words and phrases with our spaced repetition flashcards. Review the key grammar and cultural tips inside the lesson notes. And test yourself with our assessment tests. So click the link in the description right now and sign up for your free lifetime account to access our Can-Do course.
Hasta la próxima. See you next time.